Hi everyone. This is T.I.E, T-I-E, which stands for Together Individual Entertainment. But today I'm gonna give you my real name. My name is Maria Palmer, and I would like to share with you my story about 9/11. Now, I did not know the victims of the planes or the towers or the Pentagon or anywhere that got hit, and I most certainly wasn't there in person. The thing is, I was 8 years old at the time when this happened, and um, I just when I was 8 years old, I basically went to Mount Vernon Elementary, which is in the Elizabeth Township area of Allegheny County here in Pennsylvania. What I remember on that day was I was getting ready for school, and who could forget that beautiful blue sky that was out there that day. At that time, I was living in an apartment complex with my mother and father, and each time, whenever I had the chance, I would go up to the balcony and say good morning to the sky or whatever on a beautiful day. Basically, what I remember as well, so before 9/11, on a normal day, our our kids would be so excited to get on the bus and listen to the radio and have a normal day and everything. But on that day, everything changed. I was at the bus stop with the rest of my classmates, and what I saw was I saw a lot more parents on that day. I basically was frazzled about why there were so many parents. And what I also noticed was like there wasn't anybody else outside except us. And the next thing that happened was the school bus arriving. So the school bus arrived, and what I noticed first was there was no radio. I was curious in my head, wondering why there wasn't no radio on the school bus. Normally, there was a radio being played on the school bus, but on that day, there wasn't. I wanted to ask, but I wasn't the girl who normally spoke up. I was more like the shy and lonely type, you might say, at first. And what happened next, I will most certainly not forget. I remember that me and the rest of my classmates, we arrived at the school, and there stood our teachers. Our teachers were outside the entrance, and they were waiting for us. I never saw that before with our teachers. I was like, what is going on? Why is our teachers outside the school when we know where to go and when we know what to do and stuff? I basically understand that sometimes there's about maybe one or two teachers, but for five, that was like, but what I remember them telling us was, they told us not to hesitate. They told us not to go to the bathroom. They told us not to run around. They just told us to go straight to our classroom. And what I remember on that fateful day was, like, we normally would do the Pledge of Allegiance. We would do God God 'tis of thee. But on that day, it was a little more harder to do because of the fact that I guess it was just, I was like curious to know why we didn't do it. Sure, we tried to do it, but the other thing that we I guess the one thing that we also try to do was have a normal day, but by the time we got into our classroom, now we were not taught or learned or what I didn't know was we didn't know what a lockdown was. And that was my first ever experience on a lockdown. Growing up in a different school, like as soon as I got into the middle school area, that's where I learned about lockdowns. But the moment that 9/11 happened in elementary, I kind of found out years later it wasn't a drill. It was the real deal. We were on lockdown for 3 hours, and I was, at that point, I don't know. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to even ask what is a lockdown. But my teacher, Mrs. Voda, one thing I noticed about her was she kept keeping her eyes on us. But there was times when she was also looking out the window. She was doing her job. She was trying to teach us as best she could. I guess the only thing that made me happy was being around our class pet turtle named Michelangelo. And I was kind of worried. I was a little scared, but I was able to stay calm and just act like it was a normal day and stuff. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that things were a lot different on that day. On 9/11, I could not figure out like what was going on in the world. Like as soon as we finally had the lockdown lifted after 3 hours, I guess you could say that it felt like a normal day. Like we had lunch, we had recess, we just continued on for the remainder of the day. But as soon as I got home, as soon as it was time to go home, one of my relatives was waiting for me. I could not remember who it was. I couldn't remember if it was my dad, my grandma. I can't remember exactly, but all I know is my relative quickly made sure that I got off the bus safely, and my relative just basically made sure that we got home safely. And one thing that I noticed was, and I noticed it immediately, I noticed that my relative would let me watch whatever I wanted when I got home. I basically did not learn about what was going on in that day. All I knew was I was allowed to watch whatever I wanted, like cartoons or Disney or something else. But there was absolutely no news being played at my place. Like, there was absolutely nothing. Nothing at all about what I knew. And the other thing I noticed was, like, when we were outside during recess and when we were on our way home, and then when I got home, the skies were like quiet and the neighborhoods were quiet. Like, there was absolutely no noise whatsoever. And I was thinking, like, what is going on? Why is it so quiet? That's when I also decided to go out into the porch and look up in the sky, and I noticed that there was no planes. No planes flying about. I heard the birds chirping, but there was absolutely nothing else. Like, and then about, I think it was about maybe 5-6 years later, I basically learned about 9/11. The first time I ever learned about 9/11 was when I was 13. And I really could not figure it out. Like, the moment I saw that, I was thinking, like, oh my God, that actually happened? I didn't even know. That's when it hit me. That our country was, I just couldn't believe it. And at that point, I kept asking in my mind, why didn't they cancel school? Why didn't they just let us stay home if it was not safe? I mean, being on just going back and thinking about that lockdown makes me wonder, like, what would have happened if, I mean, it was just so hard to believe that we were actually involved with something like that. I mean, oh my God. I also remember, like, on that day, I remember the night being, quiet as well, and I couldn't, I seriously could not imagine, like, anything like that. But basically, I can understand why they waited until I was like 13 and 14 and telling me this, and now I'm 28, and it seems like I just wish I could have, like, if I could have, I could have made it a lot more better in my life to, like, I don't know, I mean, but I think, like they said, the only thing that we could only do was to help the families, and so I just hope that I just hope this story helped you guys understand that even at a young age, we still need to share our stories about 9/11, even though we were not there, and even though we did not know the victims, we still had to try to share our stories about what we remember on that day. And I just wish I could have known much earlier, but then again, I was just a kid at the time. I was 8. So, and just so you know, this video that I posted this year, well, actually, that I posted was posted in 2021, the year of a pandemic, a 20th anniversary to a 9/11, and so much more. But I just hope this video will encourage others to tell their story about what they remember for 9/11 as well, even though a lot of us wasn't there, but we still want to share our story. And maybe we didn't know the victims either, but just letting you know that if you have something to share about 9/11 that you remember, whether you were not, whether you were not there or you didn't know the victims, you still should try to share your story. Maybe afterwards you'll feel great about sharing your story and how proud that you learned all this and stuff. But believe me, I'm just happy I shared my story, because having it bottled up for so long, it makes me feel like I should be a little more prepared next time whenever something happens in the world or whatever. But believe me, I'm happy I'm sharing my story about 9/11. Even though I wasn't there and didn't know the victims, I still feel like I should share. But anyways, this is Ty saying I hope everyone, will pray and hope for world peace one day. I know we all want it, but so I hope you liked my story, everyone. Bye.